Yeah, it's the Weege Show. Jason Weigandt here. We're going to send it to Indianapolis with Kellen Brauer for the Weege Show in just a moment. But I want to send a shout out to our sponsor, Racetech Gold Valves. Now, look, you know they make your suspension plusher, better bottoming resistance, more traction. But even Racetech.com and Gold Valves, it's going to be tough if you were to ride a track as difficult as the Indy Supercross to have your bike work perfectly. Every single rider after this race commented A, on the ruts and the sticky soil and how the track deteriorated, and B, on the lappers. And those things tend to compound each other, right? The more mistakes a track breeds and the bigger speed differential between the riders that can handle the ruts and can't, the more quickly you'll get in the lappers. And then when you get there because of the ruts, you can't always get out of the line they're in, or sometimes they make a mistake, or the lead rider makes a mistake, and sometimes they get into the lap traffic. And it played out just like that. It actually made the race quite exciting. A lot of times these conditions, riders are just trying to survive, right? They're just trying to get around the track and not race each other. But halfway through this main event, we had 5 riders on the same straightaway. And again, they were all having moments good and bad. But in the end, Eli Tomac was able to win it. And it really has been the theme of Tomac's season. Tomac is still fast. He's still very good late in the race, just like he has always been. But in addition, he has been by far the most solid rider this year. He has not had the big moment, the big crash, the big thing that takes it away like his competitors have. And in the case of that, we saw Malcolm Stewart hit the ground pretty hard while battling up front. And we saw Justin Barcia and Jason Anderson get into it again. You probably have your own opinion on that. Barcia said in the post-race press conference, I was on the brakes, the inside was open. I had to try to go for it. This is battling for the lead with Anderson, and Anderson ends up going down. So if you're an Anderson fan, you're bummed because he was ahead of Tomac at the time. He and Barcia were first and second. Tomac was third. Anderson needed to get some sort of points on the board over Tomac. But after going down with Barcia, he ends up losing more ground in the series, and Barcia is actually second in points now. And Barcia said he feels like he's in a real sweet spot with his bike. And he almost caught Tomac at the end because Tomac did save his mistakes for the last 2 laps, almost went down to the whoops, didn't get a big double on the final lap, and Barcia got right on his rear wheel, but Tomac holds on. He is in complete control of this series. Marvin Musquin, who's always good in these conditions, was good again. Once the track started to go away, he was on fire. He passed Stewart. He passed Sexton. He was all over Tomac for second at one point. And Marv said it was a combination of lappers and mistakes at the end that let them get away. But he was still happy to be on the podium. And that story, the back and forth, same thing in the 250 class. It was Jet Lawrence to the early lead. And honestly, we all know how fast Jet is. You give him the early lead. If he doesn't crash, you think he's going to win it, right? But Cameron McAdoo gave him all he could handle and more. First of all, McAdoo was better in the whoops early. Jet kept saying, I was scared right off the bat and I wanted to jump the whoops, but McAdoo was hitting them 5th gear, flat, tapped, making up ground there. And then there was a rhythm lane after the whoops that was tough for anyone on a 250 to get consistently. And McAdoo was doing it better than Jet early, and he had the lead. But Jet then settled in. He's, again, wise beyond his years. We've said this before. He said it was a matter of figuring out where was I better than him and where was he better than me and trying to solve that. And eventually he did. And then McAdoo couldn't get that rhythm lane after the whoops every time, and Lawrence was able to take the victory. RJ Hampshire third. Hampshire continues to lament, cannot find the setting that he likes on this new bike, this new Rockstar 250 Husqvarna, which they only got in December. And he said it had it pretty good actually earlier in the day, but once the track and the whoops went away, he was just happy to bring it home and take his first podium of the year in third. All right, that's it from me, Jason Weigandt. We'll send it out to Indy. Kellen Brauer, go ahead.
Yeah, Weege Show. Kellen Brauer here from Racer X, back here in Indianapolis, having a good time. Hey, we had a couple of really good main events here tonight in Indianapolis. It was a kind of a lot of fun to watch, really just kind of like be a fan of it, right? Because it's not often you get to see basically, you know, in the 250 class right now, the 2 guys really that are showing that they have the speed and the tenacity to run up front and the starts to do it and stuff like that. To really go at it for a battle for the win. And then in the 450 class, I mean, we had pretty much the best 7 riders in the series right now, all nose to tail for like 15 minutes of the main event. It kind of spread apart there at the end, so it kind of spread out a little bit, but man, good races, really. It was a bummer to see Malcolm go down, but good to see that he was able to get back up and still finish in 8th. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, just really good racing all around. So we'll start off with Eli Tomac. Wins the 450 main event here tonight in Indianapolis, his 43rd career win, extends his championship lead again. I mean, tough to beat right now, honestly. Even though he had to work forward and get to that position, even pass into the lead in the main event, he seemed like he had the pace in hand and was almost letting the race play out a little bit. And in the post-race press conference, he kind of alluded to that being the case a little bit, kind of, you know, letting the race come to him. There's only so fast that you could push on this racetrack. So he let the race come to him a little bit, kind of figured out the pace and the flow. It was a tough racetrack tonight, obviously a lot of ruts, and the whoops broke down a lot, so guys were kind of going back and forth between jumping and skimming them, and it didn't even seem like Eli himself really knew what exactly he was going to do in those whoops. It seemed like some laps he was blitzing down the far left side, some laps he would go down the middle and there's like a big V rut in the middle that he'd jump through him. So it's kind of a mixed bag, right? But even so, it just seemed like he had the pace in hand. Like anytime that he really wanted to wick it up and do a couple hard laps, it seemed like he was the fastest rider on the track. Kind of proved to be the case when Justin Barcia, you know, late in that race, he caught up to him. Tomac was able to make kind of a quick, nice pass on Barcia and put a gap like right away, like within a lap. Already got about a 2-second gap on him, and you know, Barcia tried to regroup. He tried to kind of take a breath and figure out his lines a little bit, figure out maybe where Eli was going faster than him, but Eli just had that pace right as soon as he made that pass, got that gap established, and then kind of held it from there. I mean, he almost threw it away at the end, missed that double on the last lap of the race, but it just seemed like he had the pace, right? But it still was a great close race. Seemed like it was going to kind of turn into a little bit of a gnarly one there. We had like 10 minutes to go. It seemed like the top 7 were still, I don't know, like 6 seconds apart from each other. You had Cooper Webb coming back in from the hand injury and the bone bruise last week, and he was obviously right in the mix. That was really good to see him, you know, back up in the battle. Marvin Musquin kind of caught fire halfway through that race as well. His jump line in the whoops was really good, I thought. It was, you know, you go 3-3 and then kind of like 4 out, but it seemed like he could do it consistently. Unfortunately, that line kind of broke down and he just really couldn't seem to figure out a different option late in the race that really worked for him. But yeah, he looked really strong, moved into a good position there late and kind of closed up on Tomac. But again, it seemed like Tomac reacted to that, you know, that distance closing down on him from behind and just pulled the gap back away a little bit. So just seemed like a smart ride by Tomac. You know, we talked to him yesterday a little bit about, you know, managing this championship, and is he going to try to maybe take it a little bit easier, not go for an aggressive pass when the opportunity is not there. And to me, this race kind of proved a lot of that, because he never really, I guess, like put his nose somewhere that it shouldn't have been. Like he waited for every opportunity to come and only really tried to make pass attempts when the opportunity was available for him. So, you know, a smart ride by him. 43rd career win. Incredible, man. He's one win away from Chad freaking Reed to get 4th all time. So yeah, Eli Tomac pulls it out to a 48-point lead in the championship. And honestly, I don't know, man. We were talking about in the press conference, is he gonna wrap this thing up maybe even 2 rounds early? Still a lot of racing left to go. He even said that as well, but man, he's just looking so strong right now. Talking about the 250 class though, like I said, the battle out front was awesome. Kind of finally, I feel like, saw what we really wanted to see out of this battle. Cameron McAdoo had alluded to, you know, his starts being his real problem area, and that if he figured out his starts, if he could figure out how to get off the gate a little bit better, that he would put himself in a position where he felt like he could contend and maybe win the main event. So we got a perfect opportunity to see, is that the case this weekend, right? Jet Lawrence got the whole shot, but McAdoo was right there and they took off, man. You know, it was a good battle there for 3rd for a little while. Jay Sohn had a good position early on there in 3rd place, but then it kind of, you know, turned into Pierce Brown and RJ Hampshire and all these other guys kind of battling it out. So, you know, good battle for 3rd, but those guys gapped them so quick and so fast that there was never really an opportunity for the 3rd place battle to catch up to the lead battle. Either way, the lead battle was awesome though. McAdoo catches Jet, goes down the inside after the Supercross triple. He admitted in the press conference that, you know, that first pass was maybe a little bit early, a little bit overzealous or whatever you want to call it, but you know, tried to make the pass. Jet read him like a book, cut back underneath. Good little dicing action right there. And then a lap later, McAdoo, before the Supercross triple this time, makes the pass for the lead. And yeah, for a little bit there, he actually kind of started gapping Jet. Not a lot, but you know, enough where you're like, wow, like, is Jet gonna respond to this? And Jet did. They ran into lap traffic. That seemed to be a theme all night as well. You know, the track was breaking down, so that was tough for a lot of these guys to deal with. But the lap traffic came into play for sure. There's no question about it. These guys, definitely in the 450 main event, they hit like the back of the main pack 5-6 minutes into the race. It wasn't even that far in. You know, we had a short lap time tonight. Guys were doing 44s, 45s throughout most of the main event. And then I think we did 27 laps again. So yeah, short main event, or short laps in these main events, and ends up kind of making it feel like a longer main event for sure. But lap traffic came into play. McAdoo after the race basically kind of said, you know, he's just got to be better at getting through that lap traffic. Not that it cost him the race win or anything like that, but he just felt like that is more or less the problem area that he kind of has to clean up, right? Last week he was talking about, man, if I get a start, I think I got the pace run up there. Now he's got a start. He's proven he's got the pace. Ran with Jet through most of the race, and didn't get the win tonight, but I think kind of proved that it's definitely those two right now. Hampshire, Brown, you name them, they all probably could win a race given circumstances, but I think you put McAdoo and Jet out front, pretty likely they're going to win the main event. And yeah, it was a great battle. It was really fun to watch them two kind of dice back and forth. I felt like Jet kind of played the long game smart. Like he kind of, I don't want to say that like he read McAdoo taking the lead and running away for a minute like perfectly, and that was his plan all along. I think maybe he was a little bit caught out by McAdoo getting the lead early and getting a little bit of a gap, but I think that he always knew that this racetrack was such that you just had to kind of let it come to you a little bit, and that's probably showing Jet's maturity at this point, right? Like, you know, talking about Eli Tomac in the 450 class, he said kind of the same thing, right? Like, you just had to let the track work itself in and let the race come to you. You couldn't, you know, sprint through a bunch of stuff or make something happen that wasn't there, and it seemed like that is exactly what Jet did here tonight. You know, didn't rush passes on McAdoo, didn't try to rush anything crazy through the lap traffic, just let the race kind of play out. And then by the time he got into the lead, it seemed like he'd read McAdoo's lines a little bit as well and capitalized on the mistakes that McAdoo made in the rhythm section after the whoops, which McAdoo said probably also cost him a chance to at least battle for the win. And Jet Lawrence wins his third straight race, his fourth win of the year. Now boasts an 11-point championship lead, and we're going into a bit of a break. So next week, 250 West is back. It's going to be in Seattle, right? But then after that will be the lone weekend off of the championship. So it's a 2-week break for this series now. They'll be back in St. Louis. I guess that's early April now. But yeah, you know, Jet still holding the momentum in this series. Still looking like kind of the guy to beat. McAdoo, I don't know. Like, he just proved tonight, I think that, you know, it's definitely the two of them. I think if you put a couple people between McAdoo and Jet off the start, that McAdoo probably gets away far enough and Jet can't catch him. But I don't know, dude. Jet crashed in his heat race and passed everybody. So, you know, Brown did go down, which, by the way, that's really cool that Pierce Brown cartwheels in the whoops. I mean, that's not cool, but it's cool that he did come back from that and still got fourth, almost got on the box here tonight. So shout out Pierce Brown. Nice job recovering from that. And yeah, it's kind of your lot here from Indianapolis. 11 rounds down of this championship, moving into Seattle next weekend. More soft dirt. Probably going to see the track break down quite a bit. Seems like a condition that Eli Tomac's pretty comfortable at, so have to imagine he's going to feel pretty good about tying Chad Reed for fourth all time there. But yeah, big championship lead. I don't know, man. At some point, I feel like he's going to manage this a little bit. I don't think he's going to go for wins when he's got a 55-point lead and there's really nothing in it. But I mean, he's still getting a lot of money for winning these races, right? Getting those win bonuses and such. So yeah, that's Indianapolis for you though, folks. This stadium was awesome though. Really cool to visit this here, Lucas Oil Stadium. I'd never actually personally been in my life, so really cool. And hey, I started the Weege Show when I actually got out of the stadium this time, right? I didn't want to start it while in the stadium, trying to get out of the stadium, walking and talking through the pits. Everything's pretty closed up here. It's been raining all day. It's still pretty cold here, but yeah, Supercross, catch the fever. Fun race night, fun times, and big shout out to Racetech Suspension and all their gold valves and everything like that they do over there. Racetech, fun fact, probably has more championships in MX Simulator than any suspension brand. So you want to crush it in the video game world, Racetech has got you covered. Shout out to them for sponsoring this show. Appreciate it as always, and hope you guys enjoyed this show. And we're going to catch you guys next week in Seattle. Bye, guys.